Welcome to B2B Commerce Corner. Commerce Corner is a sub-series of the E-commerce Edge podcast discussing all things B2B commerce through the lens of agencies, consultants, merchants, and more. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the E-commerce Edge podcast. Now, before I welcome my incredible next guest to you, I would like to encourage you to go and subscribe and or follow in whatever platform you are listening to this podcast episode on, whether it's Apple, whether it's Spotify, whether it's YouTube or anything else. Go and follow it and share it with your friends. We have a back catalog of over 425 episodes now. So we've got a lot for you to catch up on and a lot for you to share. So we'd appreciate your help. It helps us with the algos. Thank you very much. But without further ado, I would love to welcome Mr. Jack CRAVY from Cart.com. Welcome, Jack.
Thanks, Jason, man. It's really good to be here. Appreciate it. I love the podcast. I've watched a few episodes already. I like the guests that you have on, and congrats on all the success you've had so far. And the subscriber count, man, I'm seeing more and more people talk about it and share it. So congrats on the podcast so far.
Thank you, mate. Look, this is a labor of love. I've been doing this for a few years now, and this industry's been, we were talking about off air that we're super lucky. We get to work from anywhere. I'm working from down here in Puebla, Mexico, and you're there in Beaumont, Texas, or Winnie, Texas, as you said, and we get to live remotely. We get to work remotely. The funny thing is, I've been doing this for 24 years, and we were always able to really work remotely, but it became trendy during COVID, and it proved even to our clients and coworkers and everybody in the industry proved actually we can do this thing completely remotely. And even my clients who maybe pre-COVID would have expected to maybe eyeball you one time in the office or come and speak to the board or something like that before they sign on the dotted line to work with you. Now, none of my clients have any expectation they will ever see me in person. And sometimes I do. I'll see them at conferences, or I'll be in their neck of the woods and I'll intentionally go out of my way to meet them at their office. But there's no expectation. And if there's one good thing that came out of COVID, that's it.
Yeah, that's true. And it also makes the moments that you're in person that much more important. It's like when you don't see someone for a long time, all of a sudden you have that one vendor or solution provider or consultant for you, like when they do meet you, it means something. And so I don't know, it's definitely helped some of the B2B companies that I've worked with get them over the finish line to be the one provider that would be willing to come out and shake their hand and talk to them and get a walkthrough of their facility or their processes, right? That means a lot. People don't do that as much anymore. So obviously, yeah, COVID was transformative in the way that we all work, especially in the e-commerce industry. But I still think that it's funny that in-person still matters at the end of the day.
Like you said, I actually think in-person matters more. And I just cannot wait every single time there's an upcoming, we've got B2B Online Florida coming up in November, and I'm going to be at that. And this will be my third B2B Online event that I've been to, and I've been to Chicago as well. And then there's other vertical specific industry events that I go to and speak at. And man, I just cannot wait for these in-person conferences. And I can't also wait. Before pre-COVID, you're on the conference trail, so to speak, and you get a little bit tired, you get a bit worn out. But man, I'm reinvigorated about this whole in-person thing. And I love the pre-parties and breakfast. I love the after parties and the events and the activities. And I throw myself into the whole thing. And I'll usually arrive a day early, leave a day late so that I can recover on that final day instead of leaving. Usually on the final day of a conference, like it'll finish at 3 p.m. or something. And most people will hop on a plane straight out. I'm like, no way, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay for an extra day and chill out. And I usually got my wife with me now, which is amazing because it's so easy for us to access the U.S. from here in Puebla. But man, that in-person experience, you just can't replace it digitally yet.
They can't replace it, but also I like that you're willing to come early and stay a little bit late. And I was watching a recent podcast that you were on where you were talking about how addictive. I think you were running. I think it was a short. You were like, it's just addictive. Like the B2B e-commerce landscape, once you really start getting into it, it gets addictive. And ironically, I was on a call earlier this morning with another consultant, and he was talking about his industry and how hard it is to get people to understand the adoption and get them to understand that they need to start innovating in the B2B technology space and all the reasons why. And he just kept on rambling. He goes, I'm sorry, Jack, I can't stop talking about it. And I brought you up. I said, it's like Jason Greenwood said, it's addicting once you start diving in. He's good, Jason. I was like, I'll show you. But it is. And the reason why it's addicting once you start getting into it is everybody wants to work in something that's fulfilling to them. And that's really that's the core of it. If you can find work that fulfills you, then you're never really working in a sense. And so the concept of I get to go into a business, show them a better path, and then they get to grow as a result substantially, potentially, or scale past their dreams. Like go in e-commerce, let's say you go and you help Nike increase their conversion rate by 2%. You're a leader in this field. You get to boast that testimonial for years to come. But if I go to Joe Schmo's down the road, that's a 5 million business, and all of a sudden now they're a $20 million business, right? And it's all because of the advice that you were able to give and the solutions you were able to provide. I'll take that any day of the week. And there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing a problem and knowing that you are part of the solution. Like you can be part of the solution, and seeing it come to fruition there's a high off that, man. There really is. And that's why it rolls off the tongue when you talk about features or capabilities or in certain niches and their problems that you discover that they're facing. It just becomes something that you just want to learn more and more about, because you can actually make a difference and an impact. And there's nothing better in the world than making an impact in your work.
Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself. And that's a beautiful segue into cart.com and what you guys are doing over at cart.com. And what's interesting is I've started to hear your guys' name more, like when I was based down in New Zealand, built my career down in the Australia, New Zealand region, had never heard of cart.com, never used it, never worked with it. But now that I'm back in North America, it's definitely getting more airtime, you guys. And it's a perfect segue into, you used to work for ECOMMERCE, and they were actually acquired by cart.com, weren't they? Is that how that happened? And that's how you came to be at cart.com?
That's correct. And we were one of a dozen acquisitions, and not just the only tech provider as well, or tech solution. There were other companies in the e-commerce space that were acquired. We had one in the Poland area, we had one in the Oregon area, in the channel space, the marketplace space, the feed management space, and then obviously us for the storefront application side of things. And Cart it founded, I want to say almost 4 years ago, or right around that time, at the height of COVID. And they had a dream of basically making e-commerce a unified application, in a sense, where doesn't matter what technology you needed or what service you needed or whether you needed fulfillment or not. Fulfillment's been a huge growth area for us, more far surpassing any of the other lines of businesses that have been acquired or that we've stood up natively. And if you need e-commerce, doesn't matter what it is, from top to bottom, there's a solution that cart.com has. It may not have the solution that is best in breed in its category, but it is well integrated from end to end, all the way from the manufacturer's floor to your front door. And yeah, we really pride ourselves in the capabilities. In the acquisition of cart.com from the ECOMMERCE side, we were one of the very first acquisitions. So I've been in a unique position to be able to see all of these things pan out, and the different systems and adaptation of CRMs and processes that have happened to be able to work with the growth and the customers that we've been able to onboard at the same time has been really an incredible ride. I never would have experienced something like this. And there were a few companies that we looked at from an exit standpoint, and we couldn't be happier that we picked a company like cart.com, that's for sure.
Wow. And so do you guys now consider yourself almost maybe a NetSuite, but without the ERP? Like you guys do everything but the ERP, heavy duty financial back-end piece, because you got, as I understand it, in all transparency, I've never used the cart.com platform before, but as I understand it, you've got order management, you've got warehouse management, you have commerce solutions, you've got feed management solutions, so it's a full omni-channel end-to-end. I don't think you have a point of sale system, but you might correct me there. I don't think you have a POS. You've got kind of CRM solutions, but you don't have ERP, you don't have financials, and I don't think you have point of sale. So apart from that, from a commerce stack perspective and from a fulfillment, logistics, order management perspective, you've got all the core commerce components you need.
That's right. And we don't have a point of sale integration quite yet, although that's on the roadmap for the storefront team at some point in the future. We're looking at the right partners. We're looking at the right features to be able to adopt in. One of the difficulties on the storefront side has been whether or not we are in market for the direct-to-consumer typical buyer, which we have been historically. And ECOMMERCE has been around since 2005. So we have tons of customers that use us from a direct-to-consumer standpoint. But we've all known the disruption of Shopify and others in the market that are playing in that space. And so it's really been interesting for us to, as we look at our roadmap and what we're going to build and why, make sure that we have a core ICP that we're going after that we can facilitate to and not just service well, but grow on the platform side. And so we've done that recently. Last year, we had to look in the mirror and we had to say, hey, is this a market that we want to continue facing on the storefront side specifically? Now, our fulfillment takes on direct to consumer brands all the time. Our other tech solutions do the same thing. But from a storefront perspective, where do we serve best? And so B2B became a very obvious choice when we looked at our existing customers that were the stickiest and that loved us the most, the new customers we were signing up, or the prospects that were in our pipeline. What do they all have in common? And it just, the data started to show itself. Our platform is it's been around a long time. And so it's tried and tested in a sense. Like, we've hosted companies doing 100+ million in revenue on the platform by just one customer. And so with that, we have uptime SLAs, and we have to have the right technical architecture to be able to support that kind of traffic and everything else that you would imagine with that. And then all of the features to give customers. We never had the demand of the app development community to be able to build plugins and such. And so what do? You just build the features. When the customer wants it, you just build it, and which is what everybody wants. And it's so confusing why more platforms don't just do that. And I understand why. If you build a very core fundamental of your platform, you can allow others to grow it and its capabilities. But what about the platform that's taking on the responsibility of meeting the customer's needs? And so we've always hung our hat on that. And as a result of that, you log into the storefront platform and features everywhere, which is horrible for the mom and pop that just wants to sell jewelry out of her basement. But if you're a B2B company that needs settings and controls like you've never seen, or if you are an e-commerce company that just has complex requirements, it's like a breath of fresh air. Oh, dang, they have everything we need right here. And we're tailoring our ICP more to the B2B market as a result of that. And another one of our core strengths over the years has been our multi-store capability. It's probably our strongest feature. We started our platform as a multi-store platform. That's who we were. That's what we coined the phrase multi-term. And Yoav is one of the former co-founders of Magento. Me and him, we had a discussion about it. Like right around that time when Adobe was taking off was when ECOMMERCE was in its heyday. And yeah, we both started on the multi-store side. And I still argue to this day that we coined the term multi-store, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. But we're real proud of the feature. But there's a lot of B2B companies that use multiple storefronts and need that, right? And so it was just one other thing to play into the role of why we decided to pivot in the way that we did.
I think those of us that have been in this game for over 20 years, and there's not that many of us, the reality is I know Yoav really well, and he's obviously gone on to do the Oro thing. Mm-hmm. And there's a few other people in our industry, Roop from over at Znode, formerly Xeon. He's decided to go down the B2B route with Znode. It's almost the big chunk of the originals in this game, because I started out working with Magento way back in the day, very early on when Magento was really just coming onto the scene. And it feels like almost all of us from those early days, not all, but a big chunk of us have gone into the B2B world. And it feels a little bit like we all see the writing on the wall. Mm-hmm. We realize that it's 100% red ocean space, and that D2C, B2C space is just in every agency is a D2C agency, and every consultant is a D2C consultant and everything else. And I just discovered, sure, I had worked in D2C and B2C for decades, but the reality is the most exciting, the most challenging, the most fun projects I ever worked on when I was working in and building agencies were the B2B projects. Yeah. Those were the ones that had the most complex backends. They had the most complex business model. They had the most complex products and product sales cycles. They had the most complex integrations and ERPs on the back end. They had really complex, they by definition had to be omni-channel because they needed to do EDI, they needed to do punch out, they needed to do self-service e-com. And so I always found those projects to be, and because my background has a more technical and operational bent than it does a marketing bent, for me, B2B felt like a natural home. And so I've loved doubling down on the B2B space over the last few years. And it's paid massive dividends because there's just not that many of us in this space that have a deep pedigree of working with these large, complex B2B brands. And obviously the solutions that can serve them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And some of the e-commerce platforms of the D2C space now that are starting to look at the B2B market and say, hey, we should invest here because they're seeing lack of growth on the D2C side. And they're saying, hey, this is a market that we should play in. But I think they're going to find themselves a little hard pressed because unless you offer really white glove service and implementation services or consulting services, these companies, like just being a technology solution is not enough. Like you have to be more than the tech, right? You have to be willing to dive in and get into the weeds and help them build a solution and be a partner with them, which is a very different relationship than a typical product marketing and click here and just sign up. That's just not how that world works.
Yes.
And yeah, it's very interesting to see how that transpires over the course of the next few years, but I've never been more excited. We offer services as well as technology. And so I think that we're well positioned. And I also think that there's plenty of room for competition as well, right? And this is a global niche, not just in the US. And so I think there's plenty of opportunity there. And heck, the rising tide lifts all boats at the end of the day. So the more people that are helping transform some of these companies that are stuck 30 years in the past get to something that's more up to speed today, the more that their competitors are going to see that's happening, or the more that they're going to have referrals for other companies that are going to want to do the same thing. And it will spread. It'll probably be slower, but that's okay. And yeah, it's fun. It's addictive, as we talked about earlier. And I'm bullish on the future on the B2B space for sure. Ever since pivoting, like to say, we started last year creating the roadmap for what that looks like. And the feedback that we have been getting on the features that we've been developing and the customers that we've been landing has been so positive that I really feel like we made the right decision. And I'm just excited for what it looks like going forward.
And what do you guys usually find yourself leading with in the conversations with potential clients? Are most clients coming to you initially for logistics capabilities, 3PL services, OMS,
Right.
IMS, whatever it might be? And then you start talking to them, oh, by the way, did you know we've got a storefront? Oh, by the way, did you know we can do these 5 other things? Or are they oftentimes coming to you, for example, order and warehouse management for their own facilities, and then they also find out you do 3PL, and they find out you've got the rest of this tech stack? What is that vector that you're usually leading these conversations with customers on?
It makes for a hard elevator pitch. I'll tell you that, because when you say I usually typically say that we're an e-commerce company, and then I let it go from there. And depending on what the client's interested in, you discover real quick where we may have a solution that could fit their problem or not. But yeah, like you're hitting a nail on the head on like why we've acquired the brands that we've acquired, the companies that we have, right? It's the land and expand opportunity. If I can acquire this solution that has X number of brands that are using them and love the product, we can easily say, hey, by the way, we have a storefront platform, or we have a marketplace management platform, or we have a feed management platform, or we have 3PL services if you need it. And so there's definitely been a good percentage of companies that the storefront and other areas of business have been able to land as a result of just reaching our hand across the aisle, so to speak. But there's also been customers that will come to us for single products or services, and that we're proud to service them in that area. And so it's really modular. You can be a customer of everything at Cart, which those are our favorite, and those are the best ones because really they get the most value. Like sure. We can work with the other team members to make sure that their campaigns are being executed without a hitch, that their product information is correct across all channels, or that our fulfillment team is prepared for the advertising campaign that we have scheduled to run. And the more of these synergies come into play, the more value the brand receives at the end of the day, right? The customer. And so that was our goal when Cart originally started, was to be able to offer that end-to-end experience, because we felt there was intrinsic value in being not necessarily the best at any one category, but the most integrated amongst all of the different solutions in the e-com value chain. So I like to, on the B2B side, it's been interesting because we have customers on the fulfillment space that are looking for their own B2B channel or to reduce costs. They're looking at Fair Marketplace, which is emerging right now. They're also looking at Amazon Vendor Central, which we integrate with. And so there's a lots of different avenues that customers are looking to lower their customer acquisition costs and to not have to share the profits and the margins on a marketplace that they would like to avoid by standing up their own channel. And so we can do that for them. And we have shared clients on fulfillment as well that we do that for. And so it's a mixed bag. I've personally been attending a lot of shows this year and a little bit of last, and I have more scheduled for this year. And I think we're going to increase that amount going forward, because having these in-person conversations with some of these merchants or some of these B2B companies is very healthy for us, not just to gain business. Obviously, that's what we want, but just to understand what the market is looking for, like what's missing or what's not being served here correctly. So it helps ideate the product roadmap in a very healthy way, and allows us to make sure that we're making safer bets on our product development going forward, which in today's economy, the safest bet on product development that's where you need to lean versus the high risk side of things.
No question. Yeah. You got to make sure that you got PMF before you even launch the P. So yeah, so no, that's great. And do you guys pitch yourself as also offering a PIM system. If somebody doesn't have a PIM today, that you can be that lightweight PIM solution for them. And then where do you sit on I know you've got separate but integrated modules. So all your modules are pre-integrated together, as I understand it.
Correct.
But then I'm guessing that if they come to you and they've already got an ERP, or they've already got a PIM, or they've already got some other component of the stack, that so you're a full SaaS platform, end-to-end SaaS platform, correct? It's not on-prem.
That's
and
correct.
2, it's all API connected. So basically, if somebody's already got a component of their stack and you got to play nice with them, you're able to do that. But you're also able, as you say, to land and expand. You come in, okay, maybe we offer one piece today, but in 5 years' time, you might be using 4 of our modules.
That's right. And we don't have necessarily a central service for our integrations necessarily. We've started a GraphQL that would potentially allow for that in the future. But because of the need for, first off, we have a lot of integrations that we had already supported with ECOMMERCE. And just as much as these other solutions already had their own integrations with different suppliers or different app companies or ERPs, what have you, accounting, each software is going to have its own needs for what it needs from an integration standpoint. So we still maintain those. We obviously integrate well with each other. So if you need an ERP, we can connect, or we have a partner that we can introduce you that can stand that up. I usually recommend partners only because when it comes to ERPs, in a sense, because we're not an ERP company, right? I mean, you've seen the back end, I'm sure, of some clients over the years where it's like, oh, you're using it this way. This is a bit different. Oh, you're actually not even using orders, but you need orders to come in. And how does that look? And you're using Salesforce, but not Opportunity. And so you start to really peel back the layers of how they are using the service. And some of these consultants are able to come in and dive in and then understand, oh, this is how they need to connect. Now, the flip side to that is sometimes consultants don't know everything about e-commerce. And so as a result of that, what you want to do is pick an expert in either or. You definitely don't want to pick an expert that knows neither, or that isn't an expert in either field. We have native connections that we support that we continue to, as well as our sister companies, as we like to call it. And to your point on the PIM, they don't have a native PIM solution within the cart wheelhouse. But 9 times out of 10, when I'm approached for, hey, we're thinking about a PIM, or we're interested in doing it, 9 times out of 10, we have a solution that calms the risk, calms that concern. For example, one of the companies that we acquired was Seller Active by Cart, or Seller Active, right? Which is a Amazon and eBay connector, as well as other marketplaces that they connect with, of which they can manage all of the inventory in one spot, as well as distribute content across each channel and pricing rules. They have a price watcher as well to see when other similar products get down a certain threshold. You can raise it potentially if you need to, during COVID, when things like that happen and supply chain issues occur. And so
the equivalent of a channel advisor or Feedonomics,
that's right.
The feed engines that are out there.
That's correct, but better. Check them out. And so we have a great integration on the storefront side with them. And all of our solutions are connected to our OMS, WMS, which powers our fulfillment services as well. And what you're able to see is you can plug in all of this product data and actually have it distribute all the information across a direct-to-consumer channel that we could power, or a B2B channel, or you can put it on your Shopify site for all that matters. You can be a cart customer using all of our services and not be on our storefront and use one of the bigger players, and that's fine too. They wouldn't exist well without those integrations and those relationships individually. And so there's a lot of opportunities there for brands to come in and have the concerns calmed a little bit on how am I going to get all of my data into each one of these marketplaces and be able to share it. So we can solve that use case. And so that's what we do. Now, we do work with PIMs as well, right? We've connected companies with, I think it was Salsify. I think that was one. There's a few others out there.
A few others.
That's right. Yeah. And look, we're always building new integrations. The good thing is the customer comes in and says, I use this. Do you integrate it? If there's not an available plugin or an app or connector that we've already built for you natively, or have a partner for you, we can build one, which is we do all the time, right? Customer comes in and says, this is what my business needs. We use this. Right now we're building an integration to Great Plains. Who in the right minds is still building Great Plains integrations, right? Nobody. They have a sunset end of life in 2 years from now. But our client onboarding, they use it deep within their system still to this day, and they're not ready to move off. Now, when they are, we'll help them build a connection to the next ERP if we don't have it, to whatever it is. But for now, we'll do it because that's what we're willing to do for customers. And that's the partnership that I explained earlier, where you can't just be a tech vendor and we have it or you don't use it or don't, right? You have to be willing to go the extra mile do some custom development, do some integration work. And that's why I think we're well positioned. As many as the others that we've already mentioned here on this call are going to be in a well position to continue succeeding in the B2B space.
And look, I'm a big advocate of brands having an iPaaS in their business anyway. Why? Ideally, we don't have point-to-point integrations anymore. Ideally, we have an iPaaS-mediated, centralized traffic cop for all integrations to where if we bring on a new component of the stack, we don't have to rewrite everything from scratch. It's unplug one component, plug a new component in. And that's the perfect world architecture, is to not have point-to-point integrations. The idea is to have a centrally mediated integration layer or ESB that can own all of that and untangle the ball of yarn, so to speak, that oftentimes exists with some of these point-to-point integrations. And I'll go in and I'll start consulting some of these businesses, and they'll have 20 point-to-point integrations. And I'm going, man, okay, where do you do error handling? How do you do failover and failback? How do you
Do you have
all this
logs?
stuff? Do you have logs somewhere? Do you have anywhere where you can re-trigger this? Do you have an interface that you can work in and see what's happened and what's failed and where the mapping is done? No, okay, for this integration, we have our e-commerce agency owns that one. We have our ERP agency owns that one. And it can be a mess. It can be a real mess. So I think brands taking ownership of their own integration layer, whether it be they actually deploy the iPaaS internally and have a team around it, or they at least have a partner that helps support their iPaaS solution, that feels much more sustainable over the long term to me.
Yeah, it is. I will say on the flip side of that, though, there are companies that may use an iPaaS where it allows you the control. Don't get me wrong, to be able to go in there and understand and map data fields exactly where you need them to and see every log and see everything. And that's the healthiest for the customer at the end of the day. But some of these B2B companies, who's doing that? Who's the guy? Do they have a web?
They don't have it. They don't have it.
And so depending on the maturity of the company, there are times where a one-to-one connection can be healthy. But for the ones that are the most mature and have individuals that are going to be needing that level of control, then you're right. They're going to need that for sure. And we partner with a few of those as well. And we're always looking for new partnerships too.
And as of today, like if you were to look at the split of the merchants that you service, what's the split of B2B versus, say, B2C, D2C? What does that look like today? Yep. And I'm guessing that you expect that split to further evolve over time in favor of more B2B manufacturers, wholesalers, and distributor kind of merchants.
Yeah. And I want to talk about this type of merchants too, because there's a few niches that we're really growing in particularly. I don't want to give away niches, but yeah. So right now we're probably 40%, I would say, in the B2B, maybe 20% of that or 20% on top of that is B2B and D2C.
Yes.
Right. And then the other 40% is probably direct to consumer. If I were to guess, I don't have the numbers in front of me. On the storefront side, I know that on the fulfillment side, as an example, 40 to 50% of our businesses, which is fulfilling for brands that are distributing or fulfilling their products to Amazon or for Home Depot or Lowe's, the world, or whatever it might be, or their retailers. Maybe they're multi-location brands, which we see a lot, and we're shipping to their individual retail locations for their goods. And then we're obviously doing plenty of direct to consumer. And it's just been really amazing to see the growth and the capabilities of our fulfillment team. They've really been the tip of the spear over the past year around the growth of cart.com. And to talk about like the growing percentages, after the past year, we've made the full pivot internally to go B2B. And we've just seen almost all of our new customers that we've signed up be B2B specific. And the churn customers are being more of the direct to consumer brand, which you would expect to happen. And so I would see within the next few years, obviously we're still servicing a lot of our direct to consumer brands that don't have a problem with us, that actually enjoy the features and the capabilities we have, even though we don't have the innovation on the themes or the framework that other platforms are really known for. They don't need all of the apps. They don't want third parties to worry about. They actually enjoy all the features as being there. They have what they need to continue to grow, and we're continuing to support those, and we will for the long term as much as we can. They help make us a better platform at the end of the day, right? They hold us to high standards. We enjoy those customers. We love those customers. And if you're a brand out there looking and you want to use an e-com platform that is feature rich versus third party powered, then come check us out, have a conversation. But the customers we're really going after in niches. And before I even dive into that, and maybe you're going to ask this, but this is something I like to talk about when it comes to B2B, is the kind of the different flavors. I'm afraid B2B is becoming a buzzword. I hope that it doesn't. I hope it doesn't go the omni-channel and the democracy.
AI.
Support brands that are doing direct consumer, but also sell to businesses. So we have plenty of customers like that. And that's sales reps and commissions and quotes and things of that nature. So you have that bucket. Then you have manufacturers just selling in bulk. They're selling to other businesses, right? They have gadgets, they've got large SKU counts potentially, they have bulk pricing concerns, catalog pricing per customer concerns. We solve that. We do that. There's a lot of players in that space for both of those buckets already. And then you have a bucket of franchise, multi-store, which we really do well in. And you mentioned a couple of competitors are also that are playing in that space, but that have multiple brick and mortars all across US. One example is we power Dollar General, their internal store. So that's 20,000 plus stores with one admin, one backend, and each store having a unique catalog, unique people, and unique shipping, and unique everything around it. So that gets pretty complex. And we're really proud of our multi-store. Obviously, I mentioned that we started as a multi-store company. And then you have this ordering portal that I've really gotten into over the past year for, let's say, like a team member of a multi-location business, like a manager or a site manager is ordering on behalf of 50 people or 100 people, like the uniform, the apparel programs, right? That is very interesting to us because we feel like it's the most neglected in the B2B space because of all of the requirements that come with it. You're basically treating a front-end user like an admin user because you need that front-end person to have control and access of other people and what they see and do. And that just opens up a whole new can. It's like inception, right, of capabilities. And so we've really been investing heavy in that space and we're seeing the fruits of that already. We've just won some killer opportunities in the past 30 days that I'm really excited about. And maybe we'll have some press releases about, but yeah, we're going to continue to innovate in that space for sure because we feel like it's underserved. So even in the B2B space, there's different niches, there's different flavors in which you can expand and you can work in. There's just so much room for different players to come in and be specialized. And that's what these companies need. They need somebody that specializes in their setup. They can't just go to some platform that says they do B2B, just, okay, we'll just handle this. And like, we can't do that. You said you say B2B. It's like everyone has their own different version of what that is. And until you start asking questions. Yeah.
I'd like to think that's where people like me come into the picture because a lot of these B2B brands, it's difficult for them to differentiate. They say, can't we just do B2B on Shopify? No, you can't because of these 36 reasons. Or when you go in and you do deep dive discovery with them, whenever I'm trying to help a brand shortlist a solution stack for them that might work for them, I always base it on the 80-20 rule. Can we do 80% of your requirements out of the box without massive customization? Because the last thing we want is for you to launch with a whole bunch of technical debt from day one. That's the worst possible scenario. And they don't know how to match that up. In many cases, they don't even know how to identify their requirements, let alone define them, let alone document them, let alone communicate them in a way that's meaningful to vendors and agencies. Just being able to do that and they speak their business language. They don't speak the language of tech, and they shouldn't have to. They don't speak the language of agency, and they shouldn't have to. And that's where a lot of my job is like being a translator. It's like translating their business requirements into a technical solution. And I feel like that's what a big part of my job is just, I'm the translator. Okay, cool. This is when you say this, and it even comes down to simple things like a lot of vendors who are new to the B2B space because they see the opportunity, they see the new shiny thing, they see that's the new enterprise client, right, that they can go after. Maybe they've historically only ever done D2C, B2C, but they're going, man, there's this big B2B opportunity over here. But they don't speak the language of B2B, so therefore they don't have the credibility with B2Bs. And it could be something literally as simple as you don't call it click and collect in the B2B world, you call it will call. It could be something as simple as that. It means the same thing, and we don't have subscriptions in B2B, but we do have auto replenish, right?
Yeah.
We call them different things. There are analogs, there are equivalents in the D2C world and the B2B world, but if you come into the B2B world only ever having had D2C experience and you try to consult to these people, you try to sell to them, and you're not speaking their language and you don't understand how their unique business and their unique products and their unique sales process operates, you'll never be invited back to have a second conversation with them. And so this is, I think, where the B2B EA is doing a tremendous amount of work in this regard and trying to get their academy stood up to where we can all in the B2B world have a minimum baseline of knowledge. At least we're using the same terminology and we're all speaking the same language. We've got this data dictionary that we're all using. I think we're going to see a lot more consolidation. Yes, we're all competitors in a way, like especially among the vendors, we're all competitors, but the pie is big enough for all of us. I would say that the market actually needs all of us, because unlike the D2C and B2C world where there's competition up the wazoo and it's 100% red ocean, the B2B world is still mostly blue ocean, right? And there are still a significant percentage of B2B businesses in America, especially that don't offer e-commerce at all. Like they just don't offer it. And they don't even know where to start to offer it. And so I think there's plenty of growth for all of us is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you. And speaking of associations and networking, I think you mentioned you're going to be at the B2B Online Florida.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm going to be there as well. No, I'm not.
Great.
No booth, no exhibiting this time because this is our first time going. We typically go to the direct to consumer shows. CART does. And ECOMMERCE historically hasn't done a lot of trade shows or events. So that's why I've been really excited for us the past year that we've been going, and the information that I've been learning has been substantial from these different niches and industries, which where I try for us to go to, right? I don't going where the merchants are, where the healthy conversations are is always where I'd like to be versus where all your competition is. But I'm actually very much looking forward to the Florida event and talking with some of the other platforms and solution providers and just starting to connect and network and build those relationships, because I think you're right. I think that it is healthy for the industry for us to all talk the same language, understand how we're positioning in different angles. And we're not afforded the ability to not do that, right? With the way that some of the other solutions are out there in the D2C space are growing and creating this divide between others, we have to stick together, in my opinion, if we want to realistically grow and be legitimate providers. And so I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and maybe having a beer if you let me buy you one.
Hey, man, I'll take you up on that. And in fact, I'll return the favor after the first one. Round 2's on me. Look, and what's ahead for you guys? If you were to look out 12, 18 months for you guys, I know you're doubling down on B2B. You're doubling down on infrastructure for B2Bs. And man, I didn't actually realize this, but just going by the sheer numbers on your website, 8.5 million plus square feet of fulfillment space, 14 omnichannel warehouses, 20,000 online points of purchase, powered 70 million orders processed per year. You're not a small organization by any stretch of the imagination, and certainly you got a lot of evangelism to do out there.
You're right. And the numbers are impressive and they're continuing to grow, and we have aspirations for even further growth down the road. And the fulfillment has, like I said, has grown substantially. We're at 14 warehouses, I believe, 8.5 million square feet. And there are some brands that we're doing fulfillment for that are very large brands. And there's clients that we're servicing on the agency side that are very large brands. And on the platform side, on the technology side, obviously between all of the different companies that we have acquired, there is a decent chance if you're a brand out there using a CART product already. You may not realize it, and definitely have an appetite for growth. We've grown very fast. We've been very fortunate with that. And we've only been around for a long time. And so for I think 4 years now, right? So we're still in the startup language, and a lot of companies haven't heard of us before and they're surprised. I went to this conference last week and I just got back on Friday. And who's cart.com? Who are you guys? And we're like, and they're like, I didn't know what the size that you were or the solutions you provided. And so there's a lot of people that are still very surprised by the breadth of capabilities and our capacity. We are working a lot in multiple different niches, not just the B2B side, working in the private and public sector as well. And we're chasing different angles there and opportunities there and have some great wins there. And yeah, CART's growing and we're going to continue to. What you're going to see in the future is our technology being even more integrated than it is today and working together in more unison than it is today. That's one thing, as you acquire companies, it takes time to really merge and create the synergy that is going to allow the brands to benefit what they would envision benefiting. We're rolling out AI in our feed management product. We're looking at that for our order management solution. Our order management solution is an interesting one. It's an OMS, WMS, we call it Constellation. And it is what our fulfillment teams and facilities use internally. It's very good. It's very robust. And we just threw that in the market out as a product available in market. It's a standalone service for the
I can run my own warehouses with that, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And so we needed something that could keep up with our needs. And this is something that's been in development for a long time, even before CART acquired the fulfillment company that it belonged to originally. And so we've really been able to bolster engineering and road mapping and ideation between other members of the CART team to be able to provide feedback to make it a significant value proposition for CART as a whole. And we're seeing customers buy this now just single-handedly without our fulfillment services, just because it's a very solid product offering. It's very similar to the storefront. It's very feature rich. It's unreliant on apps and third parties to be able to give it the power that it needs. And so there's just lots of reports and settings that some of these enterprise level brands have really been looking for in an OMS solution. So we're really proud to offer that's going to continue to grow for us. And yeah, the sky's the limit as far as what cart is concerned. And there hasn't been a company in a long time, at least. There definitely isn't one that's as growing as rapidly as I think that we are, that does end-to-end e-commerce and does service all the different areas that we do. And so we think that we're in a unique position. And so we're very bullish on that.
Love it. Love it. And you guys are a privately owned company, PE owned, want to go public? What's on the roadmap there? And how do you guys make your money? Do you charge by module? Do you charge by transactions? Like your SaaS platform, SaaS platforms. So first of all, what does your ownership structure look like? And how do you guys make your money?
Yeah, we have a lot of investors backing Cart. We've made it through several rounds so far of investment, and we're continuing to grow with the investment that we've been allocated. And we're really just focused on growth. That's our number one priority, is just how can we get bigger, faster, more capable? How can we start saying yes to more deals and start winning business away from our competitors in any way that we can? We want to not only win, but we want to do it in a smart and profitably way. And so we're keeping that in mind. And as far as like pricing goes, like every service that we offer is priced uniquely based off the service that it provides. If you're buying multiple products or services from Cart, we can bend a little bit in certain areas to be able to make things work, because where one side wins, the other side wins. It benefits storefront to have all of your orders flowing if we're fulfilling your products, because that's order transaction volume coming in. Or it may benefit you from using our agency services if they're also using their feed marketing services and supplying the feed to your advertising channels, because now they get the benefit of the control from using a random party that they don't. They can go on the Slack, right, or Teams and say, hey, we have such and such campaign, or we need to make such configurations. I don't have to hop on a Zoom call, right, and plan a meeting and coordinate. We work really tightly together. So that's one of Cart's biggest strengths is the fact that we really work well as a team, and that we're all in it for the merchant at the end of the day. Like, we just want the success. We want them to grow, because we know that they grow, they do more, and we will as well. And so that's our MO.
And is there a sort of a rough GMV level that you're a best fit for? Is it like you tell me, Jason, actually, if you're doing 10 million or more, then you're probably a great fit for Cart, or you're 20 million or more, you're 50 million or more, and you're a great fit for us. But if you're less than that, then maybe we're not. We're aiming more at enterprise level, for example. So are you targeting mid-market? Are you targeting SMBs? Are you targeting everybody?
So we work really well in the SMB and enterprise space, especially on the fulfillment side, because our capabilities are just so high, right? And there's just so much there that we can offer brands that are larger. We have so much warehouse space. We have such white glove treatment. We have so much reports in the OMS, WMS constellation that we just have a unique amount of capabilities in that space. So you typically see mid-sized to larger sized businesses, 1 million plus in that space, if not 5 to 10 million plus in that space, and even some 50 million plus in that space. But if you're using the storefront and you're a small B2B business, maybe you're doing 1 million in revenue and you're just trying to get to 2, that's fine with us. You know what I mean? Yep. So that's the difficulty at times with customers that come into our pipeline, is that not every customer is going to meet the criteria for every service that we provide. And so it becomes a challenging go-to-market strategy, because we really can't offer something to everyone at every level, but it's not everything to everyone at every level. And like our agency works with very big clients. Their minimums may be a little bit higher than a startup, as an example. But if you're a business that's doing a few million a year already and you're looking to scale, there is a very good chance that you're going to be a good fit at Cart. And we like to have that opportunity to talk, because the earlier stage we can get in with a brand as they're learning to scale, the more opportunity we'll have to adopt them into other features or services that we have, where the brand will end up getting the benefit. Because once you get far along and you need to migrate to a different storefront or a different 3PL provider, dude, like, it gets harder and more riskier to a business the further you get along, when you realize, we didn't really make the right decision at that time, or we should have forecasted some things. But if you feel like you're starting to already get those pains, act sooner than later, so you're not caught in a bad position 2 years down the road.
Wow, absolutely incredible. Look, man, nearly an hour has flown by. It's been an incredible conversation. Like I said, I was unfamiliar with Cart.com, only cursory level knowledge of what you guys did. And so it's been a fabulous conversation to learn more. And I didn't realize there's been a few different platform suite-based vendors out there who have come together through acquisition. And it sounds like you guys have done similar, that, hey, look, we've brought in where we weren't strong previously. We have bought in and brought in the capability around areas where we saw opportunity, but we couldn't service that market yet. And so that it sounds like that's the way you're going to continue to grow. And not only the great thing about acquiring technology platforms is you're not just acquiring the tech, but you're also acqui-hiring the people that have helped build the tech, but you're also acquiring their customer base as well. And so there is this synergistic thing that comes along with acquisitions.
That's right.
That if you can stomach it and you have the finances to be able to do it, it can help build your business quite quickly.
That's right. That's right. Yep. You hit the nail on the head.
Listen, now we're nearly at the end of our time together, but this is the opportunity where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. If you said you're a listener, so you already know what's coming. So this is where I get to.
Should have prepped the question.
You should have, because you knew it was coming. And it can be personal or professional, so it doesn't have to be all business here. But Mr. Jack CRAVY from cart.com, what is your question for me today?
All right. What is I want to ask you, I'll just ask you something totally random off the wall. Tell me the best meal that you've had over the past 30 days, or maybe even the year. Your favorite meal that you've had. And where? Plug that restaurant or whatever. Or maybe it's the missus, right?
Yeah, look, we've had now that we live in Mexico, we have had a chance to have a lot of really good food. There's actually over on the other side of Puebla where we were staying before we bought the place we live in now, there's a Brazilian buffet that is over on that side of town, and it is incredible. And one of the things we have found since moving here is that Mexicans tend to be littler people, and they tend to. So the challenge with that is if you go to a normal a la carte restaurant that isn't a buffet, oftentimes, like for me, I'm not a little guy. I'll have to buy 2 or 3 main meals to be full, but at the end of it, right? Whereas the thing we like about a buffet is not only is it all you can eat, but the variety that you get in one place is amazing. I forget what the name of it is off the top of my head. I think it might be Do Brazil. I think, don't hold me to this, but that's the best place and we actually been there 2 times since. The first time we went was so good. We went back with 2 different sets of friends following up from that. And so we've been there a grand total of 3 times now in the last 2 months. It's that good. So yeah, that's the best place.
Find it in the comments, right?
I'll put it in the show notes. The next time you're down in Mexico City, it's only 2-hour drive away from here, me in Puebla. So you're gonna have to come and hang out with me here, and we'll stand out on the terrace out here. I've got the Weber barbecue out there, and I've got the cold beers out there. So
maybe I'll grill you something up and try to supplant the Brazilian spot.
Exactly. You come in and eat here, and I can guarantee you'll have a good meal, and I can guarantee you can have all you can eat.
All right. This has
been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate it. And I'll drop a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. I'll drop a link to cart.com in the show notes. Other than that, if people want to learn more about you, learn more about your technology, learn more about your services, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Just shoot me an email, jack@cart.com, or shoot me a LinkedIn invite, a message. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I feel like that's the best place for us to network amongst peers, solution providers, clients, and prospects. So definitely check us out. You can go to cart.com, fill out the contact form submission. If you want to get a hold of me, you just yell real loud. We'll find a way to hear you.
Make it happen. Yeah. Love it. And then, of course, anybody who is listening who's going to be at B2B Online Florida will be able to meet up with you in person there.
That's right. Guess. And definitely, if you're planning on coming to that and you want to visit, definitely shoot me a message in some form. Love to connect. Love to meet with you guys and make sure that I set plenty of time to have healthy conversations.
Love it. Listen, it's been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned a ton about cart.com that I didn't know before, so I really appreciate it. Can't wait to catch up with you in person in Florida, and can't wait to catch up with you again soon on the podcast. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.